Robert Greene's first law of power is the one most ambitious professionals violate every week without realizing it. Never outshine the master. On the surface, it sounds like advice for the politically timid. Dim your light, let someone else take the credit. Don't be too good. That's not what it means. And misreading it is exactly why talented professionals stall at levels below where they should be. This episode is about what the law actually says, why it matters in a modern professional context, and how Claude AI executes it, precisely, consistently, and without you having to think about it every time. The law isn't about being less capable. It's about being strategically visible. Greene's insight is that the people above you in any hierarchy have an ego investment in their own superiority. When you make them look competent, informed, and ahead of the curve, they feel good. When you make them look slow, uninformed, or out of touch, even accidentally, even just by comparison, they feel threatened. And threatened people don't promote the source of their discomfort. They sideline it. The professionals who rise fastest aren't the ones who are visibly the smartest in the room. They're the ones who make the right people feel like the smartest in the room, while quietly building the influence, relationships, and track record that position them for what comes next. That's the law, not dimming your light, directing it. Here's how most ambitious professionals violate this law without knowing it. They produce work that's excellent and submit it in a way that implicitly highlights the gap between their output and what their manager would have produced. They share insights in meetings that correct or improve on their manager's position, directly, publicly, without softening. They demonstrate capability in ways that read as competition rather than contribution. None of this is intentional. In most cases, it's the opposite of intentional. It's someone doing their job well and assuming that's enough. But the impact is the same. The person above them feels subtly undermined, and that feeling, even when it's never consciously articulated, shapes every decision that person makes about their career. The frustrating thing is that the quality of the work isn't the problem. The framing is. And framing is exactly what Claude AI is exceptionally good at. Part 1. The 3 Claude AI moves that execute this law. The first move is upward attribution, framing your work in a way that credits the strategic direction to your manager while keeping the execution credit to yourself. Here's what this looks like without Claude AI. You complete a piece of work, you present it. If it lands well, the outcome belongs to whoever championed it upward. If it lands badly, the execution belongs to you. The credit flows up and the risk flows down, which is the natural gravity of most organizations. Here's what it looks like with the right brief. I need to write an update on project for audience. My manager, name, set the strategic direction for this. The core insight was their idea or framing. I executed the detail. Write this update so that it clearly credits the strategic direction to manager, shows the execution detail as flowing from that direction, and positions the outcome as a validation of manager's approach. Tone, crediting without being sycophantic. I want to sound like a sharp operator, not someone doing PR for their boss. What comes back is a piece of communication that makes your manager look strategically sharp while demonstrating your execution capability. Both things are true. The framing just makes them visible in the right sequence. The second move is the strategic briefing, making the person above you feel informed and ahead of the curve on something important. One of the most powerful things you can do for someone in a senior position is give them information they didn't have, framed in a way that makes them look smart when they share it. Not flatter them, genuinely equip them. The brief. I want to brief manager, senior stakeholder on topic, a market development, a regulatory change, a competitor move, an industry trend. Describe their context, what they know, what they care about, what they'll be asked about. I need a briefing that gives them the 3 things they need to know, frames each one in terms of what it means for their specific context or responsibility, and includes one insight or angle they're unlikely to have seen elsewhere. Tone, peer-to-peer. I'm not explaining to them, I'm thinking with them. Around X words. A senior person who consistently receives this kind of briefing from someone on their team develops a strong dependency on that person. They start bringing them into rooms they wouldn't otherwise be in. They start citing them in conversations above. The career impact compounds. The third move is the invisible hand, producing work at a level that would be visible if attributed to you, but is framed as supporting or enabling someone else's output. This is the most powerful move of the three, and the most counterintuitive. You produce exceptional work. You make it look like it came from above you. Examples: preparing a presentation for your manager's board meeting that's so strong it gets cited. Writing a briefing for a senior stakeholder that shapes their position on a significant decision. Drafting a communication from your manager to the wider organization that lands better than anything they'd ever written without you. The brief for this move: I'm preparing a presentation, a communication, a briefing that will be delivered or signed off by manager, senior person. It needs to sound like them, not like me. Their voice is describe, how they communicate, what they value, the register they use. The audience is describe. The objective is what it needs to achieve. Draft this as if they wrote it. Everything that works about this document should feel like they're thinking. What you produce is invisible. What it achieves is not. You become known to the people who matter as the person who makes things work at the highest level. That reputation is worth more than any single visible win. Part 2. The longer game. Why executing this law builds faster than outshining does. Here's why executing this law compounds in ways that outshining doesn't. When you outshine someone above you, even once, even accidentally, the damage to that relationship is almost impossible to fully repair. The feeling of being shown up doesn't fade with time. It calcifies. Every subsequent interaction carries a residue of that moment. They become subtly less inclined to champion you, include you, or advocate for you. When you consistently make someone above you look good, when they feel sharper, better informed, and more effective with you than without you, you become indispensable to them. They want you in the room. They want your input before important meetings. They want to know what you think before they commit to a position. That's a different kind of power. Not the power of being the most visible person in the room, the power of being the most useful person to the most powerful person in the room. And Claude AI, applied systematically across every upward communication, makes that a sustainable operating mode, rather than something you have to consciously manage every time. Here's what systematic execution of this law looks like across a working week. Monday, you brief your manager on a market development before their leadership meeting. They walk in looking ahead of the curve. They know it came from you. Wednesday, you complete a piece of work that builds on a direction your manager set. Your update frames their strategic call as the insight that unlocked the result. They feel validated. The outcome is credited to the team. Friday, you draft a communication that your manager will send to the wider organization. It's better than what they'd have written. It sounds like them. They send it and it lands well. They know who made that possible. None of those three things required you to be less visible. They required you to be visible in the right direction, upward rather than outward. That distinction is the law. One caveat worth stating clearly. This law isn't about suppressing yourself indefinitely. It's about reading the room correctly and operating strategically within it. There are moments where visible capability is exactly right, where demonstrating what you can do is how you position yourself for the next thing. The law doesn't say never be visible. It says be deliberate about when, where, and in front of whom you shine. The professionals who understand this don't operate from fear. They operate from strategic clarity. They know exactly what they're building, who the key relationships are, and what each interaction should achieve. Claude AI makes that kind of deliberateness sustainable at scale because it handles the execution while you focus on the strategy. Here's how to build this into your Cowork setup so it runs without conscious effort. In your Cowork project for your manager relationship, add a section called Strategic Position. Strategic framing for manager name. Always credit the strategic direction to manager when presenting work that builds on their priorities. Frame my execution as enabling their vision, not as independent achievement. In any briefing I prepare for them, include at least one angle or insight they're unlikely to have seen elsewhere. Position me as their intelligence advantage. When drafting communications they'll deliver, match their voice precisely and make the substance stronger than anything they'd have produced alone. That section, written once, applies to every communication, briefing, and update in that project from this point forward. The law executes itself, consistently, on every task. No conscious effort required. Here's the bigger picture, and why this series exists. Most Claude AI content teaches you how to use the tool more efficiently, how to write better briefs, how to get better outputs, how to save time. All of that matters, but efficiency without strategy is just faster execution of the same trajectory. Power Moves with Claude AI is about something different. It's about using the tool to execute a deliberate professional strategy, to build influence, relationships, and positioning in ways that compound over time. The laws of power have been operating in every organization since organizations existed. Claude AI is just the most capable execution engine most professionals have ever had access to. The question is whether you're going to use it for tasks or for strategy. Quick reference: Law 1 in practice. What the law actually means: not dimming your light, directing it. Make the right people feel sharp and ahead of the curve. Move 1. Upward attribution. Frame your work so the strategic credit flows to your manager and the execution credit to you. Move 2. Strategic briefing. Equip the person above you with something valuable before they need it. Peer-to-peer tone. Thinking with them, not explaining to them. Move 3. Invisible hand. Produce work at a high level that's delivered or signed off by someone above you. Sound like them. Make them look exceptional. The Cowork move. Write the strategic framing once in your project context. The law executes on every task from that point. 2 things in the description. Your first week with Claude AI at work, $30. Builds the Cowork setup that makes the strategic framing section from this episode permanent and automatic. The Black Briefcase, coming soon. The complete Power Moves playbook, 1 strategic brief per law, ready to deploy. Link in the description when it's live. Both via Claude for Lawyers on Gumroad, same creator. That's episode 1 of Power Moves with Claude AI. Law 1, never outshine the master. 3 moves, 1 Cowork setup. The law runs itself from here. Episode 2 covers Law 4, always say less than necessary. The professional who speaks less but lands harder. Coming next. Serious skills, actual output, every time.